Hello, friends. So glad that I get to be with you here today. I'm fairly new to the Eugene area. We've been here for about 7 months, so I'm getting used to wearing a raincoat all the time because I'm from California and we don't do coats. But I'm getting used to it, so I'm so grateful and honored to be able to come up here and share with you today. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to make myself at home. The only thing that would make me feel more at home is if I had some Legos that I was stepping on and injuring myself with. So, as Edgar said in the prayer, my name is Nelita Crawford. I'm new to this area. I'm an educator. I'm a principal in a school in the area. And I'm just really excited about adding to what Ty started last week in our conversation about love and marriage. And he talked largely about marriage, and I'm going to talk a little bit about marriage, but I'm going to kind of pull that wider, and I'm just going to talk about love and generalities and kind of in relationships outside of the context of marriage as well. I'm going to have to come clean with you. It's February 15. Yesterday was February 14. Valentine's Day. My least favorite holiday. Oh, I got some people in the crowd. Okay. All right, I'm feeling comfortable. I didn't know how that was going to be received. Now, here's the thing. I extend my grinchiness past Valentine's Day to multiple holidays. My kids love when the Christmas tree goes up. I love when the Christmas tree comes down. And my husband and I have been together for 15 years. He knows about my next level disdain for Valentine's Day. And yesterday he threw me for a loop. Because he woke me up and he said, I just made you Valentine's breakfast in bed. And I was like, do you know me? And then he made me lunch. And I was eating lunch and I opened up my thing and there was apple slices cut in the shape of a heart. I was like, who is this man? But here's the thing. I'm trying to sort out, because I was planning to tell you about my disdain for Valentine's Day, and I was like, why do I have such a problem with it? Let me figure this out. Let me figure out why I'm so caught up with having disdain for Valentine's Day or other holidays. And I think that what this comes down to is when something represents the myth of something and not the meat of it, it can be harmful. When we're not talking about the meat of love, but the myth of love, it can be harmful. I'd like to suggest that, the red roses, the chocolates, the Disney princesses, the Nicholas Sparks books, that man will make you cry in 5 minutes. You don't even know what you're reading, but you're crying. All of this romantic comedy stuff that we're all about, I think I'd be okay with it if we as a society were discerning and we recognize this as the myth of love. But I'm going to be honest with you folks, I didn't. And I think I spent a lot of time, wasted time, with accepting the myth of love instead of the truth of love. And I think a lot of us spend a big chunk of our lives untangling this and detangling this. And when we accept that myth of love, our understanding of how we are loved and our extension of love to the people around us is based on a foundation that is wobbly. So last week, Ty suggested that, and I'm going to put this in a little different words than he said it, but he suggested that in the context of marriage, that our number one job is to protect our spouse from our control. And I'd like to broaden that a little bit. Our number one job is to protect others from our control. And I was wrestling with that this week. I was thinking about this. I had this idea of what I was going to talk about, and then he threw that in there. And I was like, okay, all right. I hear it. And it struck me, and I had to just really sit with it for a while. Now, let me be real and say that coming up here and talking about marriage is super uncomfortable. And I'm not an expert on this. I'm not an expert on marriage. I'm an experiencer of this. I have experiences in this. And I haven't always been gracious in the context of this. David, don't you dare say amen. Where are you? I mean, I've been downright mean at times, probably like yesterday. And I've not always recognized the necessity of protecting my person and people in my life from my control. So I think the essential question that this leads me to is, do I know when I'm controlling someone? I think it's really easy to assume that people know when they're controlling. Y'all, as a self-proclaimed control freak, I don't always know. And I think it's really easy to ascribe this behavior to a type of personality, to a person that's out here, to a person that's boisterous, but sometimes it's subversive. Sometimes it's reserved, but it still attempts to influence a person towards our desired outcome. It tries to steer them to where we want them to be. And many of us don't know that this is happening until hindsight. I think when we say that we want to be about this work, God works to help us realize these things in real time. I think when we are in tune with our Creator, we can see these things as they're happening. We got to do some soul work, friends. I want you to walk with me on this. I want to break down two concepts for you that I think are transformational in internalizing our ability to recognize love and to operate from a place and space of love. Let's look at what the Bible has to say real quick. 1 Corinthians 3:16-17. You realize, don't you, that you are the temple of God, and God himself is present in you. No one will get by with vandalizing God's temple. You can be sure of that. God's temple is sacred, and you, remember, are the temple. No one will get by with vandalizing God's temple. I don't think we are necessarily handled with fire and brimstone. I don't think that the skies are going to be opening up and condemning us with lightning. I think that sometimes we can miss this because it's subtle and it's a chipping away. It's a chipping away at ourselves. It's a chipping away at the people around us. And I think that in the course of that chipping away, we can do significant damage. I think that when we do this, we violate something sacred in us. We violate something sacred in those around us. I think we need to understand our capacity to destroy. I'm just going to go over this really quickly. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of destroy is put an end to the existence of something by damaging or attacking it, ruin someone emotionally or spiritually, defeat someone utterly. I think our good intentions don't start here. We don't always start with this. And sometimes we get here and we're like, I don't understand, what just happened? So I think we have to backtrack and understand how this happens. Where do we get to this point? You can be destroying yourself just as much as someone else can destroy you, or you can destroy someone else. You can be the one that dismisses your dreams. You can be the one that brings the shame into your heart. You can be the one that feeds your insecurities. You can be the one that talks terribly to yourself, about yourself. You can be that one. And then, when someone comes to you from a place, when they're operating from the myth of love, you believe them. You believe them because that's the voice you have in your head. You talk to yourself in a way that your creator doesn't talk to you. You hearing me on this? The voice that you have for yourself sometimes does not recognize you as a son or daughter of the Most High. So, when you have accepted this version of love, and you're hearing someone, and you're like, oh, they're just real with me. You know, they see my stuff, and they just tell me. Guys, destruction and control are cousins. They're connected. And that chipping away, that subtle erosion, we gotta stop. We gotta stop sometimes and say, I'm here. I got here. Maybe I don't know how I got here, but I'm here, and I don't want this for myself anymore. I'm not accepting this for myself anymore. I'm not receiving this anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a new day. There's a new way. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what does it mean to deconstruct? Not destroy. We're putting that away. To deconstruct. To take apart or examine something in order to reveal the basis or composition, often with the intention of exposing biases, flaws, or inconsistencies. This one I love. To adapt or separate the elements of, for use in an ironic or radically new way. If you're an archaeologist, the ground under your feet buzzes. The ground under your feet buzzes because underneath your feet, you know that you can unearth layers, and you will find pottery shards, and you will find ancient temple walls, and you will find ancient paintings, and you will find bones that speak of love and birth and death and floods and famine. And you can unlock history. If you're a surgeon, you know that this sleeping body laid out in front of you is trusting you to extricate the cancer or the blockages with precision and care, and ultimately you're working towards wellness. You can heal. If you're a gardener, and I am not, but if you are, you know as you look out and you see your fruit trees and you see the vegetables and you see the flowers, you know that you must weed out the things that choke the growth. And you can produce, and you can see the fruits of your labor. When you choose to enter into this space, When you choose to deconstruct, you're in a sacred space. You're in a sacred space. You are working alongside your Creator. You're looking at yourself with new eyes. You're taking this apart and you're holding carefully your past hurts, your past traumas, your past joys, your past failures. You're holding these things and you're examining what you're made of, and you're recognizing that there have been biases that have shaped how you operate with the world around you. You're recognizing that there are some inconsistencies. You're recognizing there might be some flaws, but here's the thing. The purpose in exploring yourself in this manner isn't to cut yourself down. Because God's not about that. The purpose of this is not to cut yourself down. It's to restore yourself. It's to understand that you were created in the image of God. When we shut off the voices of control and destruction, and we look inwards with grace, with honesty, with compassion, with patience, and a whole lot of endurance. It's a marathon, folks. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We can start seeing that we are loved not because of a far-off thing that we are going to be one day. We are loved because of who we are at present. We are loved now. Love can only be given freely and with ease when we understand that we are loved unconditionally, unequivocally, unapologetically, unfathomably, unreservedly. We are loved now. Not when we get the job, not when we get the one, not when we have the kids, not when we make our millions, not when we build the house, not when we stop the this or the that, or this addiction or that addiction. We are loved as is. Doesn't matter how broken. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When we look at the stories in the Bible and we look at David and we see that God called him a man after his own heart, and he was doing some kinds of nonsense, people. He was taking other people's wives. He was getting people murdered. But he was in this sacred space with his Creator because he understood that no matter how much he messed up, that he could get back to this and he could do this work and he could recognize that he was loved. Now, I feel like it's important for me to take another step with this conversation, because when you're a newbie in your wokeness, I might have done this, so that's where this might be coming from. You're like, I got to tell the people, I got to tell everyone, y'all got to know about this. But the thing about it is, friends, when you take on this journey, when you're participating in this journey, you can only be responsible for deconstructing yourself. That sacred space, that sacred conversation you are having between you and your Creator is just about you understanding how you are made it's easy to get enthusiastic and to side-eye your partner, side-eye your person, and be like, so I've been doing this work, and I'm feeling some freedom, and I've noticed that you got some stuff to work on yourself. So I'm gonna need you to get right. I'm gonna need you to get right so that you can bring that to the table. It's not wrong for us to want the people in our lives to be their best selves. Of course. But get out of their sacred space. Okay? Get out. Because see, the thing about it is that as soon as you enter someone else's journey and start directing it, we're back to control. We got to support the sacred work that this is. And that means we stand alongside our partners, that we sit in silence with them, that we encourage them, that we pray for them, that we stand in solidarity with them. But I think we violate something important in our relationships when we attempt to direct, control the soul work for another person. I think it's scary to admit this because oftentimes we realize that we've committed to people and situations that have prevented us from the healing work of deconstruction. And when we see with new eyes and we recognize that we're ready for this and we're looking around at the marriage we're in, the friendships we're in, the workplace we're in, and we're like, I want to do this, I want to be about this, but this is what's around me. I think it can be scary. I think it can be scary to recognize that some situations feel like they're preventing us from entering into that sacred space. And sometimes we have to walk away from situations and from people, not because we want to hurt them, not because we don't want to love them, but because we need to understand what it looks like to love ourselves and to receive love from our Creator first. Mark 12:30-31, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. It's laid out for us, folks. It's pretty clear. So, I think it's really hard to lean into that. How many rock climbers do we have here? Like 2. So I can say anything I want, you guys just believe me. I told Yamil I'm going to be doing some gymnastics up here, and we don't know what's going to happen. I have fallen off stools when I've been teaching to my students. They know. I don't know if any of my students are here, but y'all have seen me fall in class a few times. When you're starting to rock climb, and you're learning, when you get to the top, you're like, oh, I got here, look at me. And then you look down, you're like, oh, I got here. Ooh, I got to go down now. You got to rappel back down. But when you start to rappel, when you're learning to rappel, you got to lay back. You got to lay back so that you're properly angled with the rock. But when you first start to rappel, this is what you do. I'm going to show you. It might be ugly. We don't know. So you're supposed to do this, right? Here's the rock where my feet are, and you're supposed to hold a rope so that you can jump, and then if you're coming down, you catch the rock with your feet. It's protective. It's meant to protect you. You catch the rock with your feet. This is what people do when they first start rappelling. And they do this scrambling business. You know what gets hurt? Your face. Your face gets hurt. It takes a minute. It takes some trust in your ability if you're rappelling yourself. It takes some trust for the person who's belaying you, if they're the one that's feeding you the rope, it takes some trust to lean back out in air and to recognize that you can catch yourself in that way. Lean into this. Love God, love yourself, love your people in that order. Love God, love yourself, love your people in that order. When we function in that order, we're connected to the source. When we function in that order, we understand our capacity to receive love and to give love. Our relationships, when we do this, will become relationships of restoration. They will become well springs. They will be places of healing. They will be places of safety. They will be places of bravery. Maya Angelou once said, "A woman's heart must be so hidden in God that a man has to seek him to find her. Be wrapped and steeped and surrounded in that kind of restorative, life-giving love." If you're not feeling restored in your life, if you're feeling chipped away at, if you're the one chipping away at yourself, if someone else is chipping away at you, I invite you to sit down in that sacred space with your Creator. No shame, no blame, no reservations. Sit down in that sacred space with your Creator.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope that message was a blessing to you. God's Word is powerful. It penetrates into our minds, into our hearts, and brings about transformation in every aspect of our lives. Listen, we don't want you to miss any content, so again, we want to encourage you to click on subscribe and track with the content that's going to be coming out week after week. And if you'd like to partner with us in this global ministry of taking the gospel of Christ to the whole world, we want to invite you to become a partner in this ministry. Click Give and join with us.